Hey everyone, welcome to the Relationship Smith Show. Tonight we have a very interesting guest. It's going to sound like, hey, how does this have anything to do with relationships? We have Paranormal Investigator Bill Slevin. You've seen him on Discovery Channel, you've seen him on Travel Channel. He's out there constantly investigating, doing the work, and we got him on the show to talk about relationships of all sorts between paranormal investigators, between the paranormal, even the fans. So we're gonna touch on all this. But first, Bill, can you give us your little elevator speech? For the people who are just who might not know who you are. I know we're probably going to get a lot of your fans on this broadcast as well. Just let people know what was your first experience and how did it get you to where you are today.
Well, I started. I've been actively investigating for 35 years. So I started even before that when I was a little younger. It wasn't out in the open like it is today because of TV and everything. So it was kind of kept quiet. I was at the library doing research from any books I could find. I've always been into the paranormal and horror. I've had some of my own experiences when I was younger and made me learn a little bit, a little more of what it was. And little by little, I tried to go out and do some of my own investigating just in public, until I actually got somebody to invite me in to do a residential home. And I think it was 1989 or 1988. And that's how that case actually projected me into doing this more, because I realized that's what I wanted to do. I like going out and doing the public stuff too, but I really found the calling in going to help people in their homes.
I'm guessing you're around my age. That would have been my senior year of high school. Around then, what was that experience? Yeah. What happened that day?
That one,
or those days.
That one is talked about a little bit, because it was my first, residential. I got one of my friends knew a couple people that were doing this, and they said, hey, they have an investigation. One of their guys is sick. They need an extra guy. You want to go? And I was all excited. The crazy thing about it was it turned out to be a rare demonic case, which is, again, very, very rare. I've done close to 1,000 cases, and I've had maybe 7 that were confirmed demonic. So it is a rare thing, but it's something I stumbled into. I mean, we went into the home, we were in there for 10 minutes, and the guy next to me got full on attacked. He had 3 scratches from his neck to his spine. And, it's one of those things where a lot of people probably would have run and never did this ever again. Honestly, it made me question everything. Like, I didn't understand when we left there. Like, I didn't know anything about demonic back then. You heard about it, but I didn't study it yet. So I didn't know much about it. I didn't understand why did it attack him? Why didn't it attack me or the other guy next to me? I had a million questions after that. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, also thankful you weren't attacked, or also disappointed you didn't get to actually that very firsthand, very, eyewitness, like that. This was me. I'm not lying. Was that the most amazing thing that happened to you, or was there something else that happened to you, or while you were in the room that was even more mind blowing?
Yeah. Well, that was the main thing, because we weren't there long. When we first walked in the house, we were there for like 2 minutes. We walked in the front door. All 3 of us turned and ran out of the house because we were nauseous. Didn't smell anything or anything like that. Just all 3 of us just turned and ran out the door because I thought I was going to throw up. And we were all nauseous. And, the skeptic side of me, going in, I was thinking, wow, could it be carbon monoxide? Is it something, like something in there that we didn't know what it was. But when we went back in, we had nothing. We went back in the house, walked back in through the first room, shut the lights off, and literally within 10 minutes, he got attacked, and then we were out of there. So, it was my first, investigation. It wasn't long, but it was very interesting. Learned a lot from that.
So real quick, I mean, when you mentioned this was demonic, and that's like, red flags everywhere. Like, I'm assuming demonic means like physical attack as opposed to like ghost or whatever the other categories are. I'm saying categories plural for some reason. Okay. Yeah. Cause it was like, so, all right.
Ghosts are not there to harm you.
Right.
They may make a noise. They may scare the hell out of you, but they're not there to really harm you. Demons are like, and what's funny is growing up, I was a huge horror fan. The only movie that freaked me out when I was real little was The Exorcist. So not quite sure how I progressed into this, but you know, being a demonology specialist, I don't get how I did it, but yeah, demons only have there's like two things that they're there for. Either to have you harm yourself or harm somebody else. And that's it. It's very, very different and it's very rare.
Well, there's the relationship question right there, Hammer. Or
Yes.
Daniel, is you said, sorry, I heard an echo. My apologies. Hammer, did I cut you off?
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. It was, you said hurt somebody else. I mean, I'm assuming that's all through manipulation of some sort. How does that work?
Well,
I have 1,000 questions. I'm sorry. I'm stumbling over myself.
No, it's all right. The demonic side of it gets a lot of questions, honestly. But
Yeah.
there's three stages of demonic activity. There's infestation, oppression, and possession. Possession, which is where they fully take you over and possess you, like The Exorcist. You know, the thing with that is they'll break you down mentally and physically first to get you to be willing to kind of allow them in and take you over. Once they do that, they either turn on you and try to get you to harm yourself, or they make you turn on somebody else and harm somebody else. That's why if you look at most cases where you hear about that, you'll find out that, you know, the person, the minute they get into that like possession stage, they go after people.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's the family members in the house, whether it's the priest or the investigators that are there. So, you know, again, TV and movies, you know, of course, enhance things like anything, but
Right.
I can tell you there is a lot of that does happen. I have enough things in my head that I'll never forget as long as I could live. That you'll never forget.
Well,
Hey,
of
can
all
I-
those things, yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Sorry, just a quick question because you said actively investigating, and I'm just curious if you could tell us what that means exactly.
Well, that means 35 years from pretty much when I first started going on an actual investigation into a person's home, where before that, I didn't have the ability. I didn't have people that were investigating. So I was just kind of reading up on it, researching, studying, and going out like to the local cemetery or somewhere and playing around myself, you know, but actively investigating where I was actually in somebody's home doing like residential investigations.
And what would an investigation entail? Like what does that process look like? You know, generally, I'm sure that changes per situation,
does.
but generally, you know, what does that look like?
It changes per situation and per decade.
Sure.
Because, you know, back then we didn't have a lot of the equipment. We don't have like now a lot of our cases, the first way they start is on Zoom, you know, because a regular case, somebody will contact us. We'll reach out to them, try to set up a Zoom call first now. Before we used to go to their house and sit with them and just literally be like almost like counselors. We're there to hear what their situation is, what's going on, what they experienced. You know, we're not there to judge them, you know, and we know about a lot of different things. 70 to 80% of our cases are nothing. You know, they're not nothing, but they're not paranormal. So it could be mental illness, it could be addiction, it could be self-manifestation, it could be just energy in the house. There's so many different things. So we'll assess, like now we'll do it through Zoom and we'll assess what's going on. We'll have a few team members on. Some of them are gifted psychics. They can actually read into the room and see what's going on through Zoom. And we'll assess what it is. If it's something very simple, we'll just give them things to do to change like some of their lifestyles and shift the energy in their house. If it's something we feel the need, we'll go to the home and do a small investigation. But if it's very rare, though, that we need to go in and do like a big overnight, that's only if it's something that we can't get rid of or if it's something we think needs more attention than we're giving it to find out what it is.
That's amazing. I don't want to get too far ahead, but it's at the same time, I got to ask the question is like, you say, you know, we'll have to do an overnight or, you know, call somebody else in. Who's the next someone? Like, what's the, like, you know, listen, I'm a professional, been doing this forever. Like, but I got to call in the big guns. What do the big guns look like? I mean, that's crazy.
Well, what it is like if we go in there and we sense it's more than just energy or something like that, and we try to do like a cleansing, it doesn't seem to go away, then we may need to go in with a little more equipment at nighttime and do a little more investigating just to see if we can pull a little more info. Maybe it's a spirit that's trapped here that needs to tell somebody something, and maybe we need to find out who it is and what it is. Normally we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
It's not really about that, but if that's the case, yeah, then we'll go in. The reason we don't like to do that, and a lot of teams, they just love that and they do it all the time. The problem is if we go in and we stay there for 5, 6, 7 hours at night, we go home, we now have to go through 20, 30 hours of footage, on 5, 6 different cameras. So it's going to take us a month or two to go through this. And at the end of the day, we're going to go in there and probably do the same thing we did before, if we were there just for the day. And now these people are still dealing with their issue for the 2 months that we're going through the evidence, and like I said, everybody on my team is very well versed on different things. So we know how to go in and understand if it's mental illness and things like that. We don't leave the people ever. We actually help them, get them help. During the day, I'm an IT director, but I'm an IT director for a psychiatric drug and alcohol treatment facility.
Wow.
So I've learned a lot over the last 10 years about psychiatric illness. We actually have a new team member on our team who's a fully licensed psychologist.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Quite the combo for
Yeah,
life.
I mean,
here.
definitely.
Yes.
Can bring it all. Hey, the one question I did have, what are the what other categories of paranormal activity are there? There's ghosts, demons. I heard you in another interview talk about just energy. There was no intelligence behind it. It was just an energy in the room. What other categories are there? That I did my studying when I was younger, but what categories of paraphenomena are there?
Well, for like say hauntings, there's residual hauntings, which can be energy or it can be an actual entity. And residual haunting is just like an energy footprint left in the location. So, for instance, we're all energy. We're all energy. So when we die, energy doesn't die. So let's say somebody hears footsteps every night, 7 o'clock, going up their stairs. Maybe the person who lived there 60, 70 years ago, every night came home and at 7 o'clock, he went up the stairs to go get changed to come down for dinner. That energy footprint sits in the house. And what you hear, you actually will hear the footsteps, but it's actually just energy in the house, which can be easily cleansed and fixed. It could be an actual entity of the energy of that person just trapped in, kind of like a Groundhog Day type of thing. He's just doing his thing that he did every day. And it doesn't interact with you. So that's one type. Then you have intelligent, which is something that interacts with you, where we can get a response from something or we can get it to do something or interact with us. Then there's the demonic. There's also one that I call what I say is visits, where it could be just a loved one or a spirit literally visiting you, going through to maybe down the street. As crazy as that sounds, that's sometimes people experience something once and then not again, and they don't know what it was. It could have been somebody visiting, like a relative, and then there's portals, which are rare too. Like, well, they're not as rare as demons, but portals can be opened by people doing like seances, Ouija boards. It could be opened by somebody who maybe doesn't know that they have abilities. Like if you've seen the movie Ghost, once she found out she can talk to them, all of a sudden they were all in on her talking to her. Kind of like that. It opens up like a portal in their location where they could come in and out. So there's a bunch of different
she got
things.
to make out with Demi Moore.
Yes.
So that sealed it for me. Okay, cool. So the next questions that I ask are going to sound a little silly, but as someone who studies relationships of all sorts, I really like your opinion on these. And again, some of them, like these questions, I'm not asking you for something that you've witnessed firsthand necessarily, but rather, what do you or others tend to believe? So, for instance, do demons and ghosts or other, para phenomena get along or compete or even hate each other traditionally? Like, if there's a ghost in the room and a demon, is there a bigger problem, or do they get along? Like, I know that sounds fiction, but do ghosts and demons cohabitate?
There's some things we don't know. I wish.
Okay.
honestly, but ghosts and demons, I have never encountered anything anywhere where both were in the same place. I don't know. I mean, I would think if a demon is in there doing something, see, because it's different, because a demon is in there going after a person, where a ghost just kind of wandering through the house. It's not like it's not like a ghost is in the house trying to possess somebody. So it's two totally different type of things. I've never experienced both in one location. I don't know. Maybe the demon chases them right out. I have no idea. But yeah, that's and the same thing with ghosts in a home. We've encountered places with multiple spirits in there. Do they communicate with each other? Do they get along? Never gotten a response about that. I maybe some of my teammates have had that kind of situation, but I've never had anything to give us concrete evidence of that.
Ghost and
I asked that
demon
question because
would be a great Odd Couple reboot.
Yeah. Well,
it
you have
would be
to
fantastic.
you have to look at it like this too. They're like, if you look at spirits, it's like people. They were people. So a demon was never a person. So spirits could possibly, let's see, she's actually on my team.
Eclectic redhead answer
and
there as well,
works
yeah.
with me with the Warrens. Yeah. So
I love the answer. Thank you.
yeah, but spirits in a home together, it's like, I would assume it's like people, because we tell people, they say, aren't there evil spirits? Well, if somebody was a cranky old person in life, they're going to be a cranky old person in death. And if there's multiple people in there, I'm sure they're butting heads also, So,
Well, that's my next question. Have you or your psychics ever dealt? I'm reading this word for word because I'm such a master at conversation. I knew this was coming up. No. Have you or your psychics ever dealt with a couple of ghosts who were a couple in real life? So, they died near or at the same time as each other, and they're both haunting the same place.
I've had a couple way back when I was up in New Jersey, where we believed one was a husband and wife and one was a brother and sister. And again, I witnessed, communication with them, but a psychic that I was working with was the one that was able to pull out who they were without even knowing, and then verifying it with the families. So yeah, I've encountered a couple.
Because the other question I have, and maybe this is straight for the psychic, did they both want to be together, or just one of them? Like, is one following the other around? Like, oh, you're not leaving me in this life either.
That's a great question.
I'd like to think it's happened.
I don't know, and unless Stephanie there has any info on this. No, I've never gotten any kind of clarification on that. That would be real interesting, actually.
And I know it seems like I'm making light of this, but the truth is, my sister is a fiction author, and she writes a lot about ghosts, and they interact with each other, and they have backstories, and they know each other's stories. And while the story is mainly about the living, so that got me thinking, like, yeah, that would be interesting to see how my sister's fantasy world lines up with what maybe some of your experiences are. I'm going to read Stephanie's comments real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. Ghosts will not interact with demons. Oh, sorry. Sometimes they don't leave this realm because they want to be together, and they end up with each other. I could see myself doing that. Sure.
Some may run quick.
The question is, can your wife see it? That's the problem.
She sees everything. We're actually gonna touch on wives and stuff. So I'm glad your wife is here. She introduced herself in chat. But has a ghost, and so based on your answer, like, I'm gonna probably skip this one, but maybe your psychic will have a comment here. Has a ghost ever fallen in love with a living and then hated the romantic competition? So it's the story of somebody moves into a new house or apartment, the ghost falls in love with them or protective of them, and somebody else moves along, and then the ghost is like, nah, that's too much. I can't. Have you ever run into or heard of anything like that?
I believe so. Again, never direct clarification of it, but actually a bunch of times I've been on a bunch of cases where the stuff started. You could, in the way I judge it is how it started happening once that other person moved in. It's once they moved in, then all of a sudden everything started. Now the person believed, like in one case specifically, the person believed that their ex was there and believed they had seen him before, heard some kind of communication from him before. But then when they moved somebody in, all of a sudden stuff started acting up, and things were getting moved and things were getting hidden, and it was becoming more like more of a nuisance. So I would believe that's probably what that was, but never had pure confirmation of it.
So I've got
So would you
a
say
sorry, a
Okay,
related
Josh.
one there specific. Bill, have you ever heard of in all of your research and travels there, the lady in the white dress in Rochester, New York?
I've heard of it. I don't know much. I've heard of it before.
So it was one of those things. I grew up there, and it was one of those things we
Right.
always heard about. And weekends we go and hang out there in the the ruins of the castle, which I think it turns out it wasn't actually a castle or a home. But
Right.
the story was that this woman had her home there, and she was very overprotective of her daughter. And the daughter went out one night and never came back. And this woman roamed the woods with her giant dogs, and still does so to this day.
Right.
But there were stories where there was a couple in a car parked there, and the boyfriend was getting a bit rough, and all of a sudden, bright light outside of the car. He gets out, she beats him up. He never talks about it again. He's stunted
Right.
for the rest of his life, and so that's directly what I think Nathaniel's asking about here. Is there was an entity there of some kind that the story was they were
Right.
protective of somebody living. And so yeah, I was going to ask you about that anyways, but it fit here, and it's interesting. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of urban myths too around that you never know 100% if what's real of it and what's not, because over the years they kind of grow. But there's one in New Jersey. It was Russell Ave in Wyckoff, New Jersey. The story was that this is when I was in high school, and believe me, I was there so many times with my friends. It was believed that there's a guy that roams the streets. They say his daughter was killed by a hit and run on that street, so he roams the streets looking for the daughter's killer. Okay, now they say so many things about this guy, like they don't even think he's real. He just appears out of nowhere. He disappears. All different things about him. So, and he's blind and this and that. So we used to go there all the time, and I'll tell you
The
something.
flaming skeleton on a motorcycle.
Yeah, no, yeah. But I can tell you this. There are things I cannot explain about this for the life of me. You would get there and you could drive up and down the street. He went from a certain distance to a certain distance. It was about a 2.5 mile range. And you could get there at any time of the night, and he will not be there until exactly midnight. And then he's gone at exactly 6 a.m. And we've been there many times beforehand, driving up and down to see if we could catch him coming out of his house, coming out of a side street, anywhere. I tell you, I have, in all the times we've been there, he just appears. I mean, we pulled over on the side of the road after driving around for 20 minutes, and the guy just all of a sudden was next to the car. And he is full on blind, where it looks like his eyes they almost look sewn shut. And he smokes a cigarette, and he carried a little tiny handheld resistor radio. And he just walked real slow down the street. But the crazy part about it was every car that came by, and there was a lot because a lot of people drove around there. Every car that came by, he would just stop and he would go like he was watching them. But yet you can go, turn around, come back, and he's like 7 blocks up. in the half a second it took you to turn around. And so there's a lot of things, but was he really there looking for I don't know, was he real? I don't know any of the things, but I've seen him a million times.
So the thing that stands out to me is apparently this person or being entity follows daylight savings time.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because for him to show up at midnight all the time, every time, like he has to not only have a watch but know how to adjust it twice a year.
Yeah.
So like that part of me, like, okay. In fact, that's one of the things I always found myself going down the rabbit hole with hauntings.
Right.
Just keeping up with the house being remodeled, or this person they only show up on certain times or dates. I'm like, they have to be aware of calendars, especially the older ones, like before we had the modern calendar. And when you start going back to some of the European hauntings and stuff, like, how do they know it's Christmas? because that date has changed many times since the actual, the calendar's changed. So, are they keeping up? Which brings me to the big question I have around all of this. Do you, your team, or anybody you work with, even like, just let's go clearly into opinion outside of necessarily what you've experienced, do you think ghosts are sentient and aware?
Some are. I mean, like I said, a residual, I don't believe they're aware. It's just like kind of like an energy thing. But intelligent hauntings, they respond to us. So I think they're aware, but I don't think they're aware fully of time or anything like that. I think they're just there. I've never had one come in and say happy birthday or something and know a date. Yeah, no, I don't know if they know a date, but I don't know if they have a concept of time. I don't believe they do.
So somewhere out there's probably a ghost that thinks Yahoo search is the coolest thing ever.
Maybe.
He's like, you can't get better than that. No, but can they learn? Like, can they be taught things like don't do this here? Is basic teaching that you might do an animal? Like, can ghosts?
Well, I don't know if you could train them, but I mean, as far as actual interacting, yeah, we have evidence of things where we say a REM pod, which is a device where it creates an electromagnetic field around it, and then you can tell the spirit to go toward it, and the closer they get to it, the lights go off. We've had it to where we could get them touching the thing, and the lights are going off, and telling them to stop, and then go back, and to stop, and to go back, and they will respond sometimes. Not all the time, and they won't do it all night long, but
that sounds a lot better than the flashlight trick they tried doing on the original Ghost Hunter series.
Don't get me started on the flashlight trick. On there, that and the orbs.
Humidity could answer all that.
That's one of the things I teach about that. The flashlight is a flashlight. Spirits can manipulate electronics and energy and any type of device like that. So if you want them to manipulate the flashlight, just tell them to turn the flashlight on. Don't break the connection so that whether it changes 1 degree in the room, the thing expands and contracts and it sets it off. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Flashlight,
electricity. Yeah.
I told you.
I saw that and I'm like, this is not proof. We're gonna discuss orbs actually. We stay to the very end. We're gonna get into a very deep orb discussion. So please stick around for that. We're gonna probably spend a good 45 minutes on that. And I want you to stay to the very end. Invite all your friends for it too.
I warned you.
I've seen your interviews. I was waiting for it. I'm disappointed they weren't here at the top of the show. So that's why we're doing it at the end. Let's get back to the living. How does being a very active, and your wife's here, I believe she's still here. How does being a very active ghost hunter impact like your romantic relationship? And by that, I mean your wife, obviously.
Well, she doesn't do anything with the ghost hunting. That's not her thing. She does not care for it too much. But she works with energy, and she's a feng shui consultant, and she works with a lot of stuff, but we kind of balance each other, like I do things probably a little stupidly. Sometimes I shouldn't. And then she has to fix it and cleanse me and, make sure I'm not bringing things home. And like, if I go on an investigation, guaranteed the next day while I'm at work, she's saging and cleansing my clothes, my equipment, anything that was near me. Oh, she hates that. Yeah. So she's, like I said, she understands it and she believes it. But she just doesn't like to do the actual investigating.
What about the time it takes that you're away from being a family member and doing family things? You've done the occasional overnights, and you do a lot of speaking. I want to point that out. Bill is available for speaking engagements, and he does a lot of them. So I just want to point out you spend a lot of time away from home as well as having a day job. So those are the kind of questions we deal with mostly. Hey, somebody's into this thing too much. How do I back them off? Like, how do you find that medium for yourselves? I use the word medium.
Yeah. Well, actually, when I go anywhere to do most of the time to do speaking events or something, she's usually with me. Like we did
Okay.
a bunch of libraries and events down here, and she's there helping. She's fine within the events. She just doesn't like, and she also sells. She makes candles, and so when I do a convention, if I'm a celebrity guest at a convention, a lot of times she goes there as a vendor. So so we're there
You're
most
there
of the
together.
places. Yeah. Sometimes, I mean,
Nice.
sometimes we're off on our own things and she's doing something, I'm doing something. But for the most part, I mean, like I said, it really works well between us. We don't really have many problems. We're not like away from each other for long periods of time, except when she goes to see her family in Brazil or something.
Sure.
Here we go.
So, as a very public and fairly famous paranormal investigator, secret respect, and yeah, I tell that people respect, honesty, listening, actual listening. I'm
Right.
glad to see it's here too. But yeah, I'm sure other people just suddenly get involved and they don't necessarily bring their other into it or along or let them know what's going on.
Right.
Just all of a sudden they're $10,000 deep in equipment and gone every other weekend. And we will probably circle around to some of that in a little bit. But as a very public and fairly famous paranormal investigator, how does this impact your work? I work in IT during the day as well, and I don't tell many people I even do a internet talk show. Your coworkers no doubt know all about it. How did it impact or change those relationships whenever word got out, so to speak?
Well, this is interesting. So again, I've been there for 10 years. It took many years before I told the owner what I do, because he's a fully, a quadruple board certified psychiatrist. So,
Right.
most of them are trained to not believe in this stuff. So I didn't want to tell him. I figured he'd put me in one of the rooms up on the, one of the floors because I said, there's no way he's going to understand this. But when he did find out, he was interested. And then I actually, for instance, last Friday, for Halloween, I did my lecture at the location for all the patients. I did one lecture for all the adults and one lecture for all the adolescents. I bring in all my equipment. I do a full, panel there talking about everything, showing them evidence, and he's full on board with it. And I've converted him, I believe, into a full believer. I mean, he brings me in with sometimes we have like 40 med students there, and he has me explain to all the med students what I do, so everybody there loves it now. I mean, all the people there know
That's
what
awesome.
I do. We just did a show this past Saturday, and I had like, I think 5 or 6 employees from the office there at my library show.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
like that. That's what I tell people about. If you're just honest with who you are, the world will come to you. Don't try to impress. Be who you are.
Right.
And I see that's actually what happened with you.
Intersected in any other ways outside of you bringing it directly?
Where at work?
Your two lines of work. Yeah, have they ever intersected outside of you specifically bringing it there?
Well, I mean, as an IT director, it's great because I know everything about technology and equipment, and like at work, we have over 100 security cameras in the building, so I know everything, and that's why I know about orbs. I know everything what affects a camera, how a camera works, how the motion sensors work, how so it helps me with equipment because I can determine, like, okay, I know this is going off, but it could be triggered by this, or it does help me a lot. Just like the fact of being in a psychiatric facility and doing our owner, he does a thing called family weekend every like 2 months, and they bring all the families in, and he does like a 10-hour lecture about the brain and about addiction and about mental illness. And I've learned so much that I can actually I can't diagnose somebody, obviously, but I can tell the difference now between a person who's hearing a voice down in their house, and a person who may be schizophrenic and is hearing a voice in their head. So it's actually helping. And addiction, we come across a lot of issues with addiction, people on different types of drugs that's causing the hallucinations and everything. So yeah, those two worlds collided big time.
All right.
Right. No. So would you say your strong background in studying technology, photography, does that give you more insight or more doubt?
Both.
Okay.
There's a side of me that, right away, I do go more to the skeptic side, because to me, paranormal is the unknown. So if I can, if I can understand it, and explain it, or sorry, it's the unexplained, unknown, unexplained. If I can explain it through natural causes, then it can't be paranormal. You know what I mean? So that's how I kind of go into it first. But those backgrounds have helped me a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's refreshing, honestly, to find somebody who comes with the technology background, who cares enough to study more about it. I think whenever it first became, I don't want to say popular, because again, we thought about doing this in '89, just a couple of friends. Let's investigate. Let's look around.
Right.
But when it became media popular, that it was, it's good to see somebody who is into every aspect of it. And I have probably a few more things to throw in at the end of I'm curious if you looked into, but how do you deal with paranormal investigators who aren't? They just say they are, and they show up and they have done no studying. They get a tape recorder and they like, I got this sound. And you're like,
there's a lot
that's
of
not how
them.
you use that.
And you know what? It's
Yeah.
fine. I tell people, I encourage people to do it. Like when we're out doing lectures and we're doing things, I'm there to educate them a little bit too, not just entertain them. So I'm all for
Sure.
people going out there. The more people we have doing this, the more we're going to eventually get real scientific evidence out of this. So I encourage people, but go out and do public stuff. Go to the local cemetery, go to the local abandoned building, a known haunted location. Do not go into people's homes until you either know more or you're working with somebody, because you're dealing with a person's life now. And if you go in there and you don't know the stuff like some people do know, you can harm people. Like I was saying before, you go into a house and let's say a team just learned from watching, Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters. They're going to know what they see on TV. They're going to go into a home and the person's going to say, I'm hearing voices. I saw a shadow. Something moved. I can't find something. And right away, they're going to be like, holy crap, this is, you're haunted. You got a ghost. And they're going to try to cleanse it or do whatever they heard. The problem is maybe they didn't take enough time to learn or understand that person has schizophrenia, or maybe he doesn't even know he has schizophrenia. So now when they cleanse the home, it's not helping their mental illness. So now what you did is you just made that person 100 times worse, because now they're still hearing those voices and everything, but now they believe it's something trying to kill them.
Sure.
So it's
their own brain is giving the
right
different feedback now.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not going to give somebody like a placebo effect that has a mental illness. You know what I mean? So cleansing the home isn't going to do anything to an illness.
Yeah, agreed. I read a story on Reddit a long time ago where it was a carbon monoxide leak, and it's a famous Reddit story where somebody's posting on Reddit, "Hey, I think my landlord's breaking into my room at night. They're leaving me notes." And they listed, it was a multi-day thing, and somebody says, "Hey, please check your house for carbon monoxide." That was what was actually going on. They were writing them self notes. They'd wake up in a delirious state and they'd leave. It's one of my favorite stories on Reddit where Reddit actually saved a life, and it was not because somebody knew what they were doing. They suggested, hey, check this out. It could be this, instead of I'm an expert. Clearly it's a haunting, or clearly it's whatever. I like the fact that that's your first warning to people. You are affecting real people. It matters now. Yeah. Know what you're doing before you say you can do something.
We've got a related question in chat there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Boo Productions Paranormal asks, how many cases have you done where a paranormal team before you has created a big problem?
That's a great question. Thank you, Boo.
Yeah, too many to even count, honestly. A lot of our cases come from people who reached out to a team, and a lot of them learning from TV. They don't even know. They like to investigate, and again, all for it, but they don't know how to fix a problem. So what they do is somebody calls them frantic, like, we believe something's in here. We got kids, they go over there and they stir things up because they don't know how to properly investigate. They may stir something up and then they're like, oh yeah, something in here. Have a nice day. Because they don't know how to fix it. They just know how to figure out maybe there's something here, and they make it worse. And then the hardest part we have is trying to convince those people now that maybe they're not haunted, that maybe those people didn't know what they were talking about, and because now they believe it. And it's hard to change their minds once somebody told them that there's something in there.
Yeah.
I've had that many, many times, and it's tough. That's why, a lot of people believe all the experts are on TV. So they may look toward the TV sometimes actually for advice. Oh, I saw this thing that looked like an orb on my TV, and now we watched, a TV show, and they said that's a spirit, or that's a demon. I mean, almost.
I didn't. I didn't want to go into this originally, but there's a ghost hunter, and I only watched one show, and I've seen clips here and there. But every time he encounters something that he thinks is a ghost, he runs away screaming. Is he in the right line of work?
No. Is that on YouTube or is it on TV?
It was a Discovery Channel thing, I think. It was one of the.
Well, it's like this. TV shows, I never say anything bad about them. I watch them myself. You just have to understand that they're most of it is for entertainment. You have some of them are real investigators. They're using real equipment. They're going to real haunted locations. But we know, I'm not going to name the show. I know a specific show that it takes 20 days to film an episode. So
wow.
Yeah, so we've gone to places overnight for 10, 12 hours and captured nothing. It happens a lot. You need a lot of patience for this. So you're watching a 1 hour edited show that maybe took 20 days to film, so every little sound, every little noise is kind of condensed into this little clip. And of course they're going to make it a little more dramatic, because if you're watching a show and something, makes a noise and I don't react at all, the people at home aren't going to even get that little jump scare they're looking for, so yeah, it's just a little more dramatized. Like I don't go running out of a house. I'm sure there are people have, there's some people that think, oh, this is cool. And then they go and they actually encounter something, and something like touches them. And believe me, they're long gone. And that's how I tell people. I get a lot of people that say, oh, I'm on TikTok all the time, and I'm watching all these people filming these ghosts in their house and doors are opening and closing. Absolutely not. All fake. I said, there is no way a person is going to be sitting there when their door's opening and closing and they're going to be going, wow, do you see this, everybody? No, they'd be running their ass out of the house very fast.
Do you think that all ghosts, all hauntings need fixed? Do people live in peace with the other entity or whatever's going on, or does something always need done?
Some people don't want it gone. Some people get almost attached to them, but some will believe, it could be a relative and they don't want them out there. So when we cleanse, we don't just cleanse, we teach the family how to cleanse, because it could be, if it was energy and if it was stuff, it could be somewhat of their lifestyle and what they're doing that actually brought in this negative energy, brought in this entity into the home. So we have to teach them how to handle their own situation. So we teach them, one of the things is, if you just take sage and wave it around the house, it doesn't do anything. It's all about the intent of what you want it to do. So you're either saying that out loud or to yourself. So we teach them, to say that you're cleansing the negative energy, the negative entities. So in case grandma's in the house, you're not cleansing grandma out of the house, so you don't need to take them out, but also some of them are stuck there. So, some of our team members will help cross them over, because we're not there just to help the living. We want to help the dead also. If they're there and they're stuck there, we want to make sure that they go on to a better place.
Yeah, if it's not your grandma, get her out of there.
Yeah, exactly. Or if grandma was really annoying,
right,
maybe you want her gone too.
Hey, Eclectic Redhead did ask a question.
Oh.
Did I say Eclectic?
You got it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that one. Out of all years of investigating, how many cases have had demonic aspect to them? I believe you answered this, but I think it's a great question.
Well, so I had I think it was 6 or 7 confirmed cases. Maybe about another couple handfuls of ones that could have been in the first stage, in the infestation stage, but you're able to get that out of there before you have to bring in clergy and do a real big thing like an exorcism or something. So There's other things that never been fully confirmed, but maybe, like I said, maybe 6 or 7 confirmed, and maybe about another 10 or 12 that were possible out of close to with 600-700 or whatever I did.
600 or 700.
Wow. I would be interested if Eclectic Redhead has ever dealt with the demonic and how that feels different versus a traditional ghost haunting. Like how would those impact you? I don't know if we can get you to call in. We do have a phone number, or if you just want to type it here. It's up to you.
Now,
I'm just curious about how that.
She's the head of my Georgia team. I have never been on a demonic case with her. I don't know if she has. I believe she has, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, while we wait for the type or the call, Zaz, you had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, are ghosts also sick and tired of hearing about Taylor Swift?
Probably. They're definitely not in those movie theaters.
So there, I like the question. I really do. I'm kind of on that edge of sometimes people get so popular, you're done. Like, all right, I don't need any more information.
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, so when it comes to that reminds me of something that I did want to bring up to you. Apparently, Matt Rife is big into ghosts, demonology, hauntings. He's and we've all recently discussed. We're fans of his. His crowd work is amazing, and he's just exploded. He went from this guy with a couple videos here and there on TikTok and YouTube to multiple agents just to get a hold of him. So
yes.
What is it possible? You're a Matt Rife fan. I remember talking to you earlier in the pre-taping or pre-show interview stuff. What can you give Matt Rife to get him to come to you? Because he's impossible to approach now.
Let me tell you,
haunted locations or places you can get him in.
Oh, plenty of places down here in Florida, and that's the thing. I tried to get tickets originally when he's doing a show in December, actually on my birthday weekend down in Naples, Florida, and I was trying to reach out to get something there. It was sold out instantly, but this is before he announced the big tour. And then all of a sudden, he was just down here at the Hard Rock. I tried to get tickets. I've tried to reach out to him, his managers and stuff, trying to, just see, because I would love to go see him. And on top of it, if he's here, I would love to get him out and investigate with me. So
Matt, Zaz has some sway. I think we give it a shot. Yeah.
Yeah. If you hear this, definitely contact me.
Matt, this is your chance to go on a real investigation with a real investigator. All you have to do is get him a ticket to a show. Easy.
He could come even if we didn't get tickets.
Yeah. You can come along anyway. I would have jumped at an opportunity. Like, in fact, if you're ever up my way and you're doing anything, please reach out to me.
Sure.
Boo asked a question, but I have a different take on it. They asked, how big of a problem is fake clergy and fake exorcist? I didn't know that fake clergy was really a thing.
So
I think this is a setup, right?
Yeah, that's a touchy subject. So
like
there's
stolen valor.
Yeah. Well, there are some people out there that just go online and get ordained on a 2-minute thing and which is fine for what they do, but then they're that type of person, like somebody who gets, I'm not talking about somebody who's done, loads of classes and years of education on it. I'm talking about somebody who goes online, and in 5 minutes is ordained. They're not somebody who can perform an exorcism, but there are some of them out there that believe they can, or do a deliverance ministry from, deliverance thing from that. That's different. I'm not, and again, this is not talking about people who have been doing this for years. I'm talking about people who in 5 minutes went on there and, grabbed a title and then, they're telling everybody that they're, an exorcist.
back in 89 or 90, I became a internet reverend with the Universal Life Church of Modesto, California. And I've done many weddings, but I never thought, I could probably exorcise some demons too. I think that
Right.
takes a very, very special person with some sort of ego to go in and do that. But there has to be people out there, I guess, doing it.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, again, that's the part that impacts people.
I paid my $29.99 for the laminated card. I think that gets me something.
Did you know you could have got the title Pope?
I went Reverend.
Whatever title you want. Yeah. Reverend's like entry level. Pope, that's definitely good free parking.
It's like what I was saying earlier, the title demonologist. I personally don't use it. I've been studying demonology for about 20 years. I'm called into cases like a demonologist would be called in. I only don't use the title just because for me personally, I respect the title. So I believe it's either you're a clergy member or you're given that title from a clergy. So, so it's just, it's not a big deal. I mean, how different is it than what I do? It's not really any different, but I just respect the title. And until somebody gives me that title from the clergy, then I don't use it in my name.
Sure.
That's all.
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, I thought I actually had a phone book listing with Reverend in it, but it was just to throw people off. It was,
but see, and that's fine. Like doing, officiating weddings and things like that. It's just this, like an exorcist is something that is a serious trained, thing. It's not, it's not somebody who just got ordained online after a 10-minute course. There are people who but there are people who have done courses that took, years to go through, and that's a totally different story,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it comes down to you could be damaging real people. You could hurt.
Yeah.
Way more than you could help if you don't know what you're doing in anything. Like you're fixing a car, doing someone's plumbing. Know what you're doing before you offer to do it for someone else. And learn your skills, learn your trade.
Right. And one thing I didn't mention before, for other people that are out there, we're a full nonprofit. We do not charge 1 cent for any of our investigations. We do it to help people purely. Nice. It's not an actual science that we feel it's ethical to charge. We're going by the knowledge we have, the experience we have, the studies we've done. So we can't come in and tell you, 100% here's exactly what it is, why it's there. And, so it's people, we don't want to take advantage of anybody either.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. I like that. That's why I'm here and I don't charge. I want to help people. And when I know I've reached my limit of my being able to help, it's usually please talk to a therapist, please talk to a counselor, please reach out and get the help from somebody, because I can't fix a problem in 15 minutes online. I can just encourage them to get the help and point out where to get it and what might be the first course of action in taking this seriously.
Exactly what we do. We will help them. If it's not paranormal, we don't leave them. We help them get the help they need, depending on what it is. Sometimes they don't want to listen to us, but we've had people that we found out didn't tell us they had an illness and they weren't taking their medication, and we've gotten them back to the doctor, back on their medication, which fixed their problem. We do our best to stay with them.
To be fair, though, and the medication, that's not entirely true. We've had plenty of questions which took far less than 15 minutes to figure out. Every one of Zaz is, should I date my coworkers? No. Move on. Next question. Solved.
Right. Don't date your coworker. Eclectic Redhead has responded, and I did want to, since beautiful answer, I did want to read it out while we have them up. It requires a lot of energy work. I'm sorry, I scrolled down. The entire experience between a demonic and regular spirit is very different. It requires a lot of energy to work on my part, at least, and sometimes you become the target of the demonic. The lesser demonic are not so hard to get rid of, but the higher level ones take quite some time and effort. One definitely needs to make sure they are on a higher vibration and mindset. So that answers the question. Yeah, it's very different. I can imagine that would be something that would be scary as hell as well, because you don't know what you're getting into until you're there.
That's the thing. I always say, like, I love what I do. I really don't look forward to a demonic case just because you never know what's going to happen. And these are the things why we try to teach people that don't know about it. They go into a home and they don't know a lot, and they just go in and then they think something's there, so they're going to cleanse it. But their cleansing is they start throwing around holy water and stuff. Now, if they came across, like I did on the first time, if they happen to come across a demonic case and they started throwing holy water around, they're going to be in for a really rough night. They're going to endanger themselves, they're going to endanger the clients, and they're going to have no clue what to do once that thing comes out at them. They'll have no idea. They will not be prepared for that, and they could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, so that kind of that dovetails into this other question I had, was like, as you're doing these, I mean, there's obviously a level of perceived risk, right? I mean, whether it be whether the person trying to ask you the question can't speak or not, if it's demonic or a ghost, you don't know, right? It's,
right.
You know, I mean, assuming there's no Zoom meeting beforehand, right?
No.
But there's a chance it could potentially follow you, or your team, and play a game of like pass the baton. I mean, how risky is that? Do you guys have to take precautions? And, you know, maybe the ghost or demon loves you guys and wants to hang out and just kick back. What are the chances of that? I mean, realistically.
Well, we try to go in as well protected as possible. You know, it doesn't always work. I mean, I've had things attached to me, you know, from public stuff too that we did. You know, I had something last October from a location here, and I was messed up for about a week and a half. They can either attach, they can attach to you, or they can throw their energy on you. Right. And for a week and a half, I was so sick. There was nothing wrong with me, you know, physically, like actual thing, but I was sick. I had every type of bad luck you could imagine every day. I had to get blessed and cleansed and get it off of me. I mean, it does happen, you know, for people like us. It's more rare because we try to protect ourselves as much as possible. We say certain prayers when we go into things. We have stuff, I wear stuff that's all, blessed and protected and the best we can. But again, when you're working with demonic side, totally different. All rules go out the window. They don't really care too much about a lot of that stuff. And, it's more your faith that's going to protect you on something like that. But again, if you're not expecting it and you don't know, you can really, really do some harm to yourself and to everybody else in there.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it taking away my luck XP just randomly. So yeah, I get that. But like your team though, like, I mean, does somebody else call it out? Like they're just like, hey Bob, I stubbed my toe 3 times this morning. 3. How about you? And he's like, I got COVID twice. And you're like, okay, clearly one of us has got something going on. Who's been given ghost butterfly kisses? Oh, of course.
You'll know. It's different. It's something. Well, I mean, if you're not expecting it and you have no idea, then you're not going to know. You're just going to think you're sick. You're just going to think you're having bad luck. But it's things like that. Like for me, my main computer in my house died. That doesn't happen.
But it's a Tandy though, Bill. It was gonna die soon.
Computer. Well, no, but I just built that computer. Here's
I actually have a story of. Go ahead. I'll tell my story after.
I was just going to say, here's an example. So that computer died. It cost me $1,800 for the parts to fix that. Once I was blessed and cleansed and it came off of me, the next day I was with my wife. We went to see my family and we were over at one of the casinos here. I went down to play some cards and I won $1,800. So that was right after I got rid of it. So it's a very, is it a coincidence? It worked. No, but it worked.
One of my best friends passed away. So I want to tell my story real quick and then break to you, Josh, I promise. One of my friends passed away and suddenly heart attack. And then like 2 days later, I have a Mac. I'm a Mac user because I work in IT and I'm tired of fixing things. So I have a Mac at home and it died like 2 days later. And my best friend hated Mac computers. We forced him to use one for some development stuff and he actually microwaved it, the first one. So after he died, my Mac died and it didn't just die and it just refused to do anything but turn one color on the screen, which I've never seen a Mac do. And I was like, maybe there's something to Chris just saying goodbye. Like, I'm going to kill your computer and then we're out of here. It was very odd that it happened at that time. I could always say, in my mind, that's coincidence. And Chris would never break my computer because he would. But go ahead, Josh. Sorry. I had to go off on a tangent.
Mess with you. He might have just messed with you like that.
I was just curious. So you said, you were cleansed, you had that, and you alluded to that there was a lot more behind some of that as far as intent is concerned. But is there a belief structure or something out there that you think comes closest to what the representation of this community that more so than others?
You mean as far as like a religion?
Oh, yeah, religion, a society thing,
Faith.
just something, yeah, just in general. And I don't mean like a belief structure exactly of a higher power, but just that, yeah, understands better than others.
It's your faith. It's not about what it believes, it's about you. It's about what you believe. So if I was raised Catholic, so I like, even for demonology, I studied Catholic demonology. If you're Jewish, whatever it is, it's your faith that's going to help you. So if I go in and I give you, let's say you're Jewish, and I give you a Catholic prayer and say, hey, read this, it's going to help you. It's not going to help you because you're not going to believe that prayer. It's not what you were, raised or whatever. It's not what you believe. Even if you're just spiritual and not, a specific religion, it's really about what it is that you have faith in, because that's what's going to protect you. So like when I go in with my team members, I will say a Catholic prayer because that's what I believe. And I'm saying it to protect all of us. So it will work on them even if they're not, Catholic, because I'm saying it to protect everybody. But some of them will also say their own, little prayer or their own little ritual or whatever they do. So it's kind of just what you believe in. I'm not going to tell you in your house, okay, there's a ghost in here and you're Jewish, but put crosses all over the wall. It's not gonna help you at all. What
So
you
it truly
believe.
is just intent. So it's kind
Yeah,
of like when they give you when you're meditating and they give you a word. It doesn't matter what the word is. You can pick anything. It's the intent of it that you're finding some
exactly.
center behind it, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Hey, Josh, Zaz, do you want to put the phone number up? We'll take some calls if people want to call in. We've had Bill for an hour. I figure if somebody has a call, question about their own haunting, their experience, something, if you don't mind, Bill,
Yeah.
we are a call-in show. So,
All right.
and
Sure.
let's try to keep it open to people with serious questions, just so we utilize Bill's time as best we can. One thing I did have to ask you, and I have a ton of questions still left. I'm going to ask if anybody wants to call in. When people doubt you, and you run into doubters all the time, you took this interview without even realizing whether we were doubters or not, that sort of thing. When people doubt you, do you have any one thing that you can use to convince them? One piece of evidence or one story?
I'd love to be able to take them to a demonic case, but
Yeah, sure.
no, it's tough because I can tell them any story that I've had, that some of them are extremely terrifying, but I wouldn't even expect somebody to believe it unless they were there to witness it. I just tell I'm straight. I don't mind. People come at me all the time with stuff, and I'm in a million Facebook groups, and people post things and they ask for advice, and I tell them, and then they get really pissed. A lot of them when I tell them that it's not a ghost, because everybody's dying to have a ghost capture, and I try to educate them so that they understand what to look for, but I don't really it I don't have a specific thing to tell them. I'll tell them the truth. Like, for instance, just to go on the thing with an orb real quick. When somebody posts an orb, people will come in and just tell them stupid things like dust your house, stupid. This is like the things they say. I don't do that. I will go in and I will fully explain in a huge paragraph about why it's not an orb, why it appeared on their camera, how to stop it, how to understand what a real orb looks like. So I try to do it very, but then I get that you have
Next,
no idea. Then they go, "Why
next,
do I believe you?" And I tell them who I am and the education and experience I have, and then all of a sudden I have an ego problem. So
Oh yeah, you're just trying to. I've reached out to help so many people, and I've gotten the you just want people to follow you and subscribe, and I'm like, that's not why I answered the question. Like that would be nice. Don't get me wrong, but I answered to help. Yeah,
that's one of the biggest things. I have this one guy that will not stop. He just, I'm not going to go into it with him. He just posts all this ridiculous stuff, and everybody tells him, and he will not listen to anybody, and I keep trying to explain to him that, like ghost phone apps are not real, and I explain why, and I explain I'm a technology guy too, but he just looks at it like I'm trying to convince people what I believe. There's so many of this, and it's like, that's not what I'm doing. Why would I be
and you
wasting
seem
my
pretty
time?
clear on. You seem pretty clear on this is what I believe. This is what my research has led me to. You might believe something else, but this is my answer to your question. Yeah.
Right. But I could,
and you're very clear on
but
that.
I will be very specific when I know it is not something, because I've been, I'm very good at, understanding evidence, because besides the stuff like we were saying before about the two worlds colliding here, besides the fact of the technology, I've been a graphic designer, for 30 years. I do websites, so I know how to use Photoshop. I know how to determine if a shot, picture's been photoshopped. Now with AI, we're going into a
It's all
whole
the
new
pixels.
level. Yeah, exactly. So
Always
there's
the
a
pixels.
lot of different things you can tell, and this guy some of these people they just will not get it, and then they just start slamming everybody, saying we're all stupid, and I laugh. It doesn't bother me.
Have you ever expressed a belief in a public forum that cost you fans? Like it was something that a large number of fans didn't want to believe you believed.
No, I even joke, like when, for instance, like when I'm brought in to a lot of conventions also. So we do MegaCon here in Florida, which is it's the biggest convention down here. It's one of the biggest in the country.
I believe that's how I found you, through their website.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, we were there this past year again, and when we do a panel there, we fill the room. Like we had about 500 in there, and there's like 400 outside trying to get in, and it's touchy, because I got to entertain a little bit more at a convention. If it's a Comic-Con, they're not there to really be educated, but I do throw my education in there. So when I bring up orbs, I tell people, here we go. I said, you may hate me after this, and some of them I know just kind of blow it off, but you'll be surprised at how many people come up to my booth and everything afterwards and actually thank me for telling them the truth about this. So, I just tell them, if they don't want to listen to me, they're not going to listen to me anyway. Some people just want validation of what they believe. They don't want to actually, even when they ask, what is this? They don't want to know. They just want somebody to go, you're right, it's a ghost. Yeah.
And back to the IT angle, I've had people insist that their computer was hacked when they just simply needed to fix their computer. Like your OS is completely broken. That's why files are disappearing. Your hard drive's failing, probably. Like, no, somebody's hacked me. I'm like, no, probably not. You're not that interesting. You're not worth it.
Unless you have great people on your team, like Stephanie, who I had an issue in my office one day at work. My computer, I had like a blue screen of death, died. I turned around, my other computer, blue screen of death. And then she sends me a message that there's a lady, Mary, in my office messing with my electronics. So sometimes it can be.
Is that hacking? Would that be, or just, shorting it out, or?
I don't know. I would do, that's kind of hacking, I guess.
That entity hates hackers. SSDs.
Yeah.
All right, I got a weird one and a long one. It's not that long, but this entered my head because, again, I grew up in it. If it had anything to do with that Time Life book series of paranormal, ancient aliens, whatever it was, I read, I listened. But there are people who believe that ghost sightings and ghost visitations are actually false memories implanted by aliens. That's why they're little and they're grayish white. And there are people who believe that Bigfoot is an alien because he disappears in a flash of light in some encounters. So is it possible that all of this is just Sasquatch messing with us?
I mean, I don't believe so, but you never know. I mean,
Sorry.
there are so many things out there that none of us know. Look, I grew up in Jersey. We have the Jersey Devil. You know, I've gone looking for him many times.
Jersey
Never
Devil was one of my
found him.
favorites as a kid.
Yep.
Hey, what do you think, honestly, since you brought the subject up? I was fascinated by the Jersey Devil, and then at one point I just stopped reading up on it. You know, it was hoof prints that were jumped on a wall and on a roof and over distances a human couldn't jump. What do you think that possibly was?
Oh,
Just an opinion, no research, no evidence, just
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, it's like over the years, there's been so many, just like a Bigfoot, there's been so many sightings and so many unknown things. And the problem is there's been so many people that have disappeared in the Pine Barrens, but also, it's all, mob run up there back in the day. So, the Sopranos wasn't too far
That's
off. So, I'm sure there's
Sure.
a lot of things going on in those Pine Barrens, but I honestly, I don't know. I mean, I believe in things like Bigfoot and all that. I don't know a ton about it. I've done some studying on cryptozoology, and it's fascinating. But to be honest, I don't know. I mean, there's so many stories about it that I don't know. I grew up in Jersey, so many different stories. You don't know what to truly believe. I mean, it could be an urban legend. I don't know.
all right. Yeah, I was fascinated by the story. It was a really good one, and it was fairly well documented for the time, apparently.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that stuck with me. This is more serious than it sounds, and I would like or anybody in chat to answer as well. Do you think it's possible to work towards becoming a ghost after you die? Like, is this something you could set out to do?
Yeah, that's a question everybody always has.
Damn
I
it,
don't know.
I thought it was original.
No. I mean,
thought it was
we get
original.
people asking at conventions and stuff sometimes.
Where do you
It's
find the
sort of-
magic necklace that does that?
Yeah, it's. I always joke with my wife a little bit. I say, "You're in trouble if I go first and I find out I could stay here," because
Yeah.
I got a list. I'm going after. But no, I mean,
I'm having fun.
there are some things that we won't know until we're there. I don't know. I was raised Catholic, so I also a lot of things I was raised on where heaven and hell, reincarnation, so many different things that don't know. And then when you start doing this, it can change your outlook on things when you actually interact with something. But to
So,
actually be
raised a Catholic. I say raised as a Catholic originally when you were growing up, dogs and cats didn't go to heaven. I think they changed that sometime in the 2000s. Like, the Pope's like, well, maybe. In fact, my only haunting story that I kind of want to believe is my cat came to see me like weeks after he had passed away. He was my
Right.
favorite cat, always jumped on the bed next to me. And yes, it could just be a memory in my head that like the
It was
cat
a
always
demon.
jumps here when I'm laying about this. It was a demon. The cat was a little weird sometimes.
Zaz might be a
To
demonologist.
you,
Yeah.
Zaz is a demonologist. Anybody that has a problem with it, find him. No. Do you believe that animals, specifically dogs, cats, are sensitive? That's something that gets covered all the time. My cat was staring at a corner. My dog barked at somebody who wasn't there. Do you believe that that's a real thing out in the world?
Yeah, I believe animals are more open to seeing things, but the problem is saying that. Yes, they're more open, I think, than us at times. But saying that, it's like people also have to understand, and we get it all the time. I mean, oh, my cat's staring at the wall for 2 hours. Well, how long have you had a cat? The cat sees an ant that you can't
That's
see
all
on
my
the
cat
ceiling.
does some days.
Yeah, and they're going to be there for hours until that ant moves. So you gotta kind of judge it on what was he doing. Was he just staring in the corner up at the thing, or was he like almost like freaked out by something, or interacting with something, or But just like we say, we believe animals and children are more open because children haven't closed their third eye yet, or haven't they don't realize. So all those imaginary friends might not fully be imaginary.
Yeah, no. I unfortunately never had an imaginary friend. It's just it's a long history of people not liking me, not even the people I made up. And that's true. Like I didn't have an imaginary friend. I'm always feel left out that I never had one. So what I want to do is give everybody a chance to call in. We'll kind of wrap it up here. We've taken up over an hour of your time. But if anybody wants to call in, this is your last chance, 412-254-4829. You could also type questions in chat for Bill. Bill, I wanted to kind of wrap this up with giving people advice on getting started seriously and with intent, not just like I'm going to go out and do something one day. One day I picked up it was a GoFundMe, a ghost antenna for my iPhone, and it plugged into the headphone port back when those existed. And I knew it was crap, but I can imagine there are people that like will buy one and go out like I could detect ghosts now. How do you
have
suggest
one of those.
to people they get involved? It's still upstairs. I used it once.
Played
I'm
around
like,
with
the app is garbage.
Yeah.
The app was horrendous.
Well, what I would say is first, do some research. Go out, get some books. There's a million different books out there. They're not all great, but all of them will have something in it that's interesting and something in it that's real. Go out, learn. Go find a local team in your area. Do some research on the team. See how much how much experience they have. And go out, go on some ghost tours. Go on some local known places and learn that way. Don't try going to people's homes first. So equipment, you don't need thousands of dollars of equipment. The best piece of equipment you can have is audio. Get a digital recorder. Simple. Do not use phone apps. You got to remember two things about phone apps. It's one of the things I preach about. And I'm sorry for the people out there who made them, but there are two things to phone apps. Number one, a lot of them are programmed to produce responses, because if you get responses, you're going to buy it and you're going to tell your friends and they're going to buy it. Also, like any app, what do? They access things on your phone. Some of these apps are programmed to actively listen to your microphone. So you're sitting there and to know your GPS. So it knows you're at a cemetery and it knows you're asking a question. It will actually, using AI, will respond to your question with an answer that would go along to what you're asking. It will go into your contacts and it will pull names from your contacts. There's so many different things that these apps do. It's not, and plus your phone is not a good piece of evidence, because even if you just took your phone and, a phone will record audio and record video, and we use it sometimes, we'll hold it up to record something in our hand or something like that, but like one of the audio recorders. But if you have your phone on, even if it's on airplane mode, you still have a million apps that are in the background and they're running and they're making little tiny vibrations or possibly a little noise or something that's going to contaminate
these things.
The evidence.
Just bleed radiation.
They do. The amount of EMF energy that comes out of those is crazy. So all those little things, even let's just say you're doing audio recordings like you do with a digital recorder, that little vibration on the phone may turn out to sound like an actual voice talking to you. So you're never going to know if it's real or not,
Bill,
so
you're going to accidentally shut down the New Orleans haunted walking tour by accident, and they're going to be very cross with us from hearing
tours.
That, so.
Tours are a different story. Tours. I'm not even going to go into that. But tours are a different story because look, it's like a TV show. A tour is there to entertain you. Yeah. And they're telling you, they're taking you through real haunted places and they're telling you the real haunted history. And you do have a chance to capture something, but know what you're doing. A tour will probably tell you, make sure you use your flash because the flash is going to produce orbs. So, it's little
right
things
next
like
to the
that.
Lens.
Yeah.
Our top 3 sponsors are Ghost Hunter apps, so that should work out well.
There you go. Sorry, guys. No.
Do you guys have any questions for Bill before we let him leave us?
No, Zaz, anything from
I've
you?
done a lot of the talking.
No, he pretty much nailed mine. It's I'm just listening like a fanboy in the back here. I like Hammer had mentioned, I grew up with thinking when I saw stuff when I was a kid and reading all the books, staying in the library by myself. We had this old timey library, big marble columns, reading all the books, and then sometime around like 1918, anything that I thought I saw just
1918?
18, 19 years old. anything just yes, 18, 19. I got the rickets and died. You're talking to a ghost. Surprise! Got y'all. I'm out. You set me up. You son of a bitch.
Hi, caller. You're on the
Oh.
air.